Hi there, and welcome back to the Bear Farmer channel. This is the second video in the Let's Build a Garden Indoors series. And today we're going to be discussing building our propagation and seedling area. Why do we want to start with building a seed propagation area? Well, because if you're growing with seeds, you're going to need a place to germinate them, to grow them, and to get them into a propagation area so they're big enough to put into whatever system that you want to use to grow, whether it be soil or hydroponics or aeroponics or whatever your preferred growing media is. And we can deal with that as we get a little bit farther down the line. So first of all, we're going to build a seed propagation area, but there's going to be some basic materials that we need to get started. And let's go ahead and take a look at what those are. Now, some things to consider as we get started with this are, what are we going to be growing in? If you're going to be growing in dirt, you probably want to start your seedlings in dirt. It makes sense because you want to keep them in whatever their final growing medium is going to be in. If you're going to be growing hydroponically or aeroponically, we're going to propagate seeds a little bit different. So your materials are going to be different, but some basic things that you're going to need are seed trays. You're going to need those either way, regardless of how you're planning on propagating or growing your seeds. You're going to need propagation trays, you're going to need humidity domes, and you can see pictures of those now as they scroll through. Either way that you're planning on growing your seeds, you're going to need some type of a growing medium, whether you just do it on paper towels, whether you do it in rock wool, however you need to start that, and whether you're planning on using water, whether you're planning on using a rooting solution, all of those things you're going to need right off the get, and you're going to need a light, obviously. And if you are growing in a non-temperature controlled area, you're going to need a way to get your seedlings warm. If you want to get fancy, a lot of the things that you'll need to help control your lighting would be timers and things of that nature. Or if you're planning on doing an automatic watering system or things of that nature, timers come in very handy. And I would recommend this style of timer that you can use to leave certain things on all the time, and then the timer will actually control half of the outlet and turn the other half of them off. Or you can go with a simple timer like this if it's just for your growing and propagation area. It will just turn your lights on and off, and it's just a single outlet, or you can plug a surge protector into it like you see here. And it will help you to be able to control your lighting so that you don't have to babysit it quite as much. You're already going to have to babysit with water and checking humidity levels and making sure they're not getting dried out and your seedlings are doing well. So those are already things that you're going to have to be paying attention to, and remembering to turn the lights on and off can sometimes be a hassle. So things that I would recommend, first of all, to get started. Now, the second thing that we're going to talk about is whether you're going to build your area for propagation and for germination, or whether you're just going to purchase a rack. Like you do that and they'll just build on their rack, and it depends on how big of a grow setup that you plan on doing as to whether you'll need that many seedlings germinating all the time or whether you'll just need a couple. I'm going to go ahead and show you today how to build your own germination station and go ahead and lay out your grow area. So that's what we're going to go ahead and get started with. As you can tell, I've go ahead and outlined the area that I want to use for my grow area. This should look very similar to the outline that I showed you in the beginning of the video. Now, I wanted to talk about some things real fast that have to do with the seed propagation area and the germination area that I'm going to be building, in the fact that with seed germination and propagation, you don't need a lot of space. You are going to need enough space to put lighting there, obviously, so you're going to need at least the size of your light fixture. If you have a small light fixture, you can get away with a smaller grow area for propagation. Like, I'm going to be just building a short area that I can build onto later if I need to add more space. But as far as for propagation, but for germination, you really only need probably 10 to 15 inches of light space between the top of your dome and your light. So from the bottom to the top, you're looking at maybe 12 to 15 inches. So it doesn't have to be huge. Right now, I'm just gonna be building an open area that can be kind of multi-use for a bunch of different things, but you'll see when I get a little bit farther into it how I plan on setting it up to be able to use it for propagation and germination right now. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get my materials set up and enjoy watching as I put this together. Now, I do want to talk about this real fast because I feel like this is an important thing to highlight with the type of wood I'm using. Now, I'm going to use a lot of the reclaimed wood from the system that I just took apart to rebuild this new system because, I mean, let's face it, wood is expensive, y'all. And I want to make use of every resource that I have in the best way possible. Now, the wood that I'm using is called furring strips, okay? This isn't anything expensive, and I'll put a link in the description of exactly what I'm using and where you can pick it up. I prefer to shop at Lowe's, but you can pick these up pretty much anywhere, and it's about the cheapest wood that you're gonna find that's brand new, and it doesn't have to be crazy expensive, and it doesn't have to be treated or anything like that unless you're building a raised garden bed out of it. And then it's preferential to use treated wood because it'll last longer unless you're planning on covering it with plastic or something else to preserve the wood. But I'm using furring strips, 1x2s, and what ends up being like 3/4 inch by 1.5 inches and 3/4 inch by 3.5 inches. So that's all the materials that I'm going to be using, and I'll be posting the dimensions and everything of what I'm building as I'm building it in the time lapse. So enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side. There is the meat and bones of what I'm starting with. Just a nice little open area that I can have to start some things off on. And if you remember on the outline, we're going to be setting up a small NFT system over here, our deep water culture pipe system, whatever. We're going to be setting it up here eventually in the future, but for right now, this is going to do just fine for what I need it to do. Also, if you remember last time, I used that mesh, that metal mesh, to have the top done. And this time, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to cut wood slats and leave about a 1/2 inch gap in between each wood slat so that I have a surface area that isn't going to buckle or bow or break down. It's just going to be a nice flat surface that I can use as a multi-purpose area to put things on. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. So enjoy watching this next little bit. There we have it. It is built. It is ready for us to make use of. And again, I made this out of mostly repurposed wood.
stuff from other projects that I'd finished with, that I was done with, and I didn't need the wood for anymore. But it's just laying around taking up space, so why not use it to build something useful? This is 100% from the materials that I had already had laying around. I didn't purchase anything new to make this. 100% of this wood came from the projects that I had already made that I wasn't using. So here we are. We have a new start for seed propagation and grow area. Let's go ahead and get our lights set up and get our seedlings in here.
So what you see behind me here that I'm using to hang up these grow lights, these are just fluorescent tubes. They're nothing fancy, nothing special. I'll have a link to where you can buy these things in the description. They're fairly cheap. They're easy to start out with, which is why I have them, honestly. I have another set that I use for vegetative growth that I will also be showing you later on in a different video. What I'm using to hang them are these ratchet rope hangers. They're fairly easy to set up. They're fairly easy to use. And they stretch obviously a lot longer than chain, and they're a lot easier to adjust up and down as your plants grow. So that's what I'm using, and I'll go ahead and link that in the description as well.
So there we have it. The lights are all set up, and now I'm going to go ahead and show you how I have this area set up.
So you can see here I have my propagation trays and my humidity domes all set up so that my germination and propagation area is ready to go.
And again, I have that set up that way simply because of the fact that I can use that area as a multi-purpose area now. That probably won't stay my seed germination area for very long because I have other plans for that area. But as you can see, this system of building is extremely adaptable to whatever you want to do and however you want to set it up. You can interchange all kinds of different growth systems or different areas of your growth system on this shelving system. It's very versatile and it's very flexible in how you can set up your areas for different growth systems. And if you're anything like me, you'll be changing out what you do a lot to what works the best and how you want to utilize the space. So that's why I think it's incredibly important to set up a very flexible and variable grow area so that you can do whatever you want to with it. But let me know in the comments, what do you think of the grow system? How would you use it? What would you change? Is there something that you would like to see that you didn't? If you enjoyed this comment, as always, please give us a thumbs up as it will really help us out. And if you really like this channel, please consider subscribing as that would help us out even more. Until next time, again, thanks for tuning in. God bless.